Oh, hey,
Oh, look at that.
look at that.
Oh,
That's the wrong. Hey, there you go. That was the wrong camera, of course.
ah!
Why not have the wrong camera? Hey, it's Tuesday, so that means it is the phone ringing. As soon as we start, that means it is. Maybe I should get that.
We'll give it one more ring.
All right,
Okay.
somebody else got it. Hey,
Yeah.
it is New Comic Book Tuesday. Now that we
Mhm.
got that out, this is the stream where we talk about the comic books that are coming out and will be in stores. And what do we got this week? You said it was a light week, Aaron.
You know, it is a light week. I don't even know how to begin this. Well, it's funny because I think I mentioned this to you before.
Mhm.
Every time we have a light week,
Yeah.
it's also the week that like 5 or 6 of the books that are regularly in my pull come out.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a weird week because there's not a lot of new stuff to talk about, and I always
Yeah.
like to make a point of pulling out like new number ones or like
Right.
a interesting looking series. There's not a whole lot to check out, but we got a few.
Uh-huh.
So we're gonna start this stack like I always do. Oh, we got some text. Oh my
Put
gosh!
your name there.
Whoa,
You like that?
it's pretty fancy.
Oh,
Oh,
oh.
you killed it.
Oh, no, it's upside down.
Oh my gosh.
There you go. That's you. All right, let's
Getting
take a look.
fancy.
I could have done this any other time.
It's just that kind of a day.
It's that kind of a day.
We're having a good time.
Why not? What do we got over there?
So,
What's going on?
as you know, Dan, I always like to start each week off with any facsimile books that come out because I'm an old guy who reads old guy comics.
Yeah.
And Marvel did not disappoint with a facsimile of Uncanny X-Men 142. This is the second half of the Days of Future Past storyline. I was very happy to see this. Last week they put out 141. This is a famous cover with this Wolverine just getting blown away by a Sentinel. Put little Dan on the Wolverine getting blown away by a Sentinel. So this is oh, he's hidden now.
Yeah. I'll work
smart.
on that later.
Yeah.
Maybe not while the show is live.
You know what? That's part of the fun. Live editing.
That's what we do. That's what
we'll do it live.
We'll do it live. Oh,
So
it's a facsimile.
It's a good comic. I think any X-Men fan knows it. This is one of the most popular comic book storylines of all time. What I like about it being an older comic is that it's a pretty epic story, and it's so epic it has to be told across 2 issues, which at the time was huge.
That's pretty epic.
As opposed to now where everything is like a 12-issue series.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to be able to just like pick up these 2 issues and kind of get the epic story all kind of self-contained, as it were. But yeah, it's good stuff. One of my favorite stories from the X-Men.
Is that the 2 issues in that one book?
No. Last week, issue 141 was the first part of Days of Future Past.
That's right.
Yeah, we talked about that.
I mean, it's been a long week, dude. Thanksgiving happened and stuff.
Man, tell me about it. I've been like fighting off this like sinus all week, so it's like I can't even.
Are you sick?
I can't tell time. No, I'm not sick. I just like I got like such a stuffy head. I mean, you should probably keep a 6-foot distance from me, just generally speaking.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure this will be fine.
I also wanted to point out the charming thing of Uncanny X-Men. The Days of Future Past story takes off in the far-off time of the year 2013.
Wow.
Which,
wow.
That does feel far off from today.
Those
but
are
in
better
a different
times,
way.
dude. Like, really. Jeez. I like whenever they have things like that in like the future, 2013. You're like, wow, and that's 10 years ago.
No. So another facsimile, not to be outdone, DC puts out Doom Patrol number 99. This is a notable issue because it's the first appearance of Beast Boy, who's more famous now for being in the Teen Titans. But when he first came on the scene, he actually was in the Doom Patrol. And it's also this bug character. I love this drawing.
What's going on with that thing?
So
what is that?
I know, right? Look at that face. And
the more you look at it,
it's
the more insane it gets.
Got,
like,
suction cup legs. So what's even weirder, and this kind of, I think this kind of speaks to some, like why I was more of a Marvel kid than a DC kid. Because this is such a weird comic, and I know it's Doom Patrol, and so they advertise themselves as being weird, like the world's strangest heroes. But like in the story, this bug character, I think he is called the Fantastic Bug Man.
Fantastic.
He's not like a bug man. He's just a guy in like a bug vehicle.
Oh.
And so the cover is kind of deceptive.
So that character is
no, that's not even like the character. Like he has like a vehicle that transforms into different bugs. Like it's like
okay.
a dragonfly and then a spider and
okay.
a caterpillar. But he's just a dude. But
he's also wearing like a bug.
He's wearing like a bug suit. Like you kind of see him.
Yeah,
he's like in this like metal suit, and then like there he is. Kind of there, but like it's just like it's weird because the cover you're like, oh, what kind of like trippy?
Yeah, that guy's awesome.
Yeah,
and then he's not even in there.
Not even that. But you know what?
What a letdown.
They delivered the trippiness with Beast Boy. I have to be honest. I'm only familiar with Beast Boy through Teen Titans cartoons, and I'm used to him being kind of the goofball. And it's kind of it's a little charming the way he's introduced in this one. He's supposed to be like he's a teenager, and he's like. He talks back. Like they wanted the book to appeal to kids, so they decided to introduce this surly teenager.
He's a bit of a tough guy.
He's a tough guy, but the way he's drawn, his superpowers is he turns into animals, but only his head stays green, and also he keeps his hair cut. So like he turns into a fish. He's got like his little hair and like kangaroo.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a good one where he's. I mean, the fish is pretty good. Oh yeah, he's like a gorilla, but he's got like his little teenage face. I guess the lights you can't quite see.
Oh yeah.
But
there you go.
It's just kind of goofy, is all I'm getting at.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really liked it. I think Doom Patrol is fun. I don't think it like holds up in the same way that other Silver Age comics do, like specifically the Marvel stuff. I feel like there was a little bit more character going on.
Yeah.
Like I think that's the thing that Marvel got kind of famous for. They built their empire on their characters were like no longer one-dimensional; they were two-dimensional, which is not a lot of dimensions, but it is more than one. You know. And this book definitely it's fun, but it definitely feels like a one-dimensional kid comic. So
gotcha.
I think it's really interesting, like going back and reading old stuff, so you can kind of compare and contrast all the different types of books that were out at the time. Because this, I think, is from 1965 when this issue came out. So this would have been like a couple of years after Marvel came onto the scene. So this would have still been when DC was the number one publisher by far. Marvel really didn't start giving them a serious run for their money until the 70s, 80s. Right. But anyway, so. That's all the facsimiles we got. We're going to move on to, as I said, my poll this week has like 5 books in it, and I didn't read any of them.
Busy day today.
It was a busy day today.
Yeah.
I'm going to highlight them just because I want to highlight the books that I love. So I'm reading Kea. I've talked about this every time it comes out. This is a perfect all ages action adventure comic I would recommend to
post-apocalyptic fantasy.
Yes. So like you can see there's like a animal woman, like a tiger woman.
Yeah.
I haven't read this issue, so I don't know what's in it.
Yeah.
But like Lizard Boy, Kea's got a robot arm.
Yep.
Really great stuff. Good comic. Highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Also, Conan the Barbarian. I've been talking this book up a lot. I haven't read this issue yet. This is the start of a new story arc, but it's a different artist than the first series, but it still looks great. Like I think that there's a lot of focus on this new Conan series to really deliver in the art department, which is something that was lacking in the previous version of the series at a different publisher who I don't want to shame publicly.
Publicly shame them. Okay.
It was the Marvel series. Marvel, who I've been very critical of Marvel lately. Their art department just is. I just don't think they have one. But the series
it's all computer generated.
It really it's all done with computers.
It's all done with computers.
It's all bleeps and bloops and dots. It's all bits in a whatever. I mean, digital artists. Am I right?
Let's talk about that.
I kid, of course.
Schlub.
The Schlub. This is another series I've been really enjoying. I read the first issue on a whim. Like it was certainly something that was tailored to me, being somebody who likes superhero comics. But I really enjoy this. As I've talked about before, it's essentially a body swap comedy.
Yeah.
Like I know that's basically a genre unto itself.
Like Freaky Friday.
Freaky Friday is kind of the popular one.
Wacky Wednesday. What was the other one?
There was one with
Fred Savage
and
Judge
Reinhold.
Yeah.
I remember watching that.
What was that called?
I don't even remember.
Damn.
I just remember that was one of the. I watched that movie on TV one time. I was a kid, and I remember thinking, "This is just Freaky Friday, but with boys instead of girls." Like, it was the first time my mind was able to process that thing could be very, very similar to other things.
Vice Versa is what that one was called. Okay. I had to consult the Oracle here.
Well, thank goodness you did.
Yeah.
But this is a pretty good. It's a pretty good take on that because it's just about this schlubby guy that gets turned into the world's most powerful superhero and just all of the nonsense that entails, like him trying to.
I mean, there's going to be some nonsense.
Well, it works. It works. It's sort of a be careful what you wish for kind of story because the beginning, the story kind of starts with the main character. He has it's a problem that a lot of people have where they blame everybody but themselves, and so he's like, my life is terrible, and it's all because of my family's fault. Everybody's out to get me. He's kind of paranoid, but he's also kind of a schlub, and so now he gets
that's the title.
And so now he kind of becomes like the most powerful man ever, and he's not really doing a whole lot with it. Like he's it's that whole like if I had all the money in the world, I'd blah, blah, blah.
And then
it's like
you don't.
Then you don't, So it's a really good comic. It's well written. It's by Ryan Stegman and Kenny Porter, and the art is by Tyrell Cannon. It's great looking. This issue in particular has a lot of your favorite thing, Dan, Jack Kirby homages.
Oh, I love a good homage.
Yeah, so there's this. So the character is it's very much like a Jack Kirby type of character where he's a superhero, but he's like an alien from an all-powerful race of space gods. And in this issue, he has to confront his father. And so there's like layers upon layers of.
I thought you were gonna say scantily clad women.
No. That wasn't really Jack Kirby's thing.
No, you said the thing that you like the most, Dan.
Well, you're right. That is the thing that you like most.
That's my favorite thing.
Your second favorite thing,
but homages to Jack Kirby.
Homages to Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a good book. Highly recommend it. My other favorite book that comes out, Local Man.
Local Man.
I can't stop talking about this book. It is just really great. Just a quick recap on the premise. It's about a guy who used to be a superhero in a 1990s-esque type superhero team, and it's a flipped book. One side tells a story set in the 90s. The other side tells a story in modern day where he is legally prohibited from using his superhero name and powers in solving crime. And so he kind of becomes, his new name kind of becomes Local Man because he has to do everything incognito. And when the newspapers report on it, it's like, Local Man seen, blah, 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 blah. It's really good. It's by Tony Fleecs and Tim Seeley, who are two really great creators. Probably my favorite superhero comic book, of anything being published, just because it feels fresh. Like it's a unique take.
Yeah.
It's a new take on like a classic because there's a lot of classic to it. Like I said, it's all 90s references to that era. So there's a lot of like it feels really classic, but in a good. Like not in a way where it feels like somebody's just doing their lame version of a 90s comic. We got more than enough of those. It's really good. Highly recommend Local Man. Final book on my poll that I want to talk about is Wild's End number 6. Actually,
is this the last issue?
This is the last issue, so I really don't actually have much to talk about because I said I haven't read it yet. I'm just pointing it out. You should read this comic.
Well, don't flip too much. You might ruin it.
I know. I don't want to spoil it for you.
You might get the gist of the end.
This is the climax where the characters all come into conflict with the aliens that are trying to take over their town. Excellent book, great art, great writing by Dan Abnett, wonderful art by I.N.J. Colberg. Really love this book. It's actually like people asking like what's your favorite book coming out recently, and this actually might be like I know I just said Local Man's my favorite superhero book.
Make up your mind.
I added a qualifier.
Superheroes.
I said Local Man's my favorite superhero book.
What's your favorite book with talking animals?
Oh, that would definitely be Wild's End. Although there actually are a couple of talking animals books that have come out lately that are pretty good. I mean, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, we talked about that several episodes ago.
Murder Bear, what was that one?
That was it. Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees.
The Murder Bear.
With the Murder Bear, correct. But Wild's End is definitely my favorite. It's a great book. Highly recommend it. I'm sure the trade will be out soon, and it's going to be something that I push on a lot of people when they come in asking what new book should I check out. What should I read? I say Wild's End.
What book with animals talking do I need to take home today?
Yes. You know, and on that subject, I want to start a new segment for this show. Dan. I'm going to spring this on you.
Okay, let's do it.
So, you know, we work in a retail environment, and we're rolling into the holiday season.
We are.
And so one of the things that happens quite often, I get it a lot, you know, throughout the year, but it happens a lot this time of year in particular, is you have grandmas coming into the store
that don't know
anything about anything, and they said, I'm looking for a gift for so-and-so. Can you help me? And I always say, how dare you talk to me? No, of course, that's what I'm here for. And lucky for them, if they say he hates comic books, he wants to talk about Warhammer, I say, I can't help you. Let me go get my friend
let's
Dan.
go get Dan.
But
I'm like, you need it all.
If they talk about books, I'm the one to talk to. So I decided for this month, as we're going into the holiday season, I'm going to pull one book off the shelf that's kind of one of my go-to recommends.
Ooh.
So this segment is as much for our coworkers as it is for readers and just general
shoppers.
Populace. Yeah, shoppers in general.
During the holiday.
But if you're...
Gift idea recommendations.
Right. Gift idea recommendations, but it's going to be specifically books from me because that's my thing. So first up, I think I went with an easy one because what happens a lot is people will come in and they'll say, my kid likes Batman. What should I buy him? And that's a tough one because there's literally a million bazillion Batman
so much
books.
Batman, yeah.
And it's hard to tell what everybody has and like which version of Batman they like. So one of my go-to recommendations is this book, Batman Gotham by Gaslight. It's written by Brian Augustin, and one of the stories is illustrated by Mike Mignola, famous for creating Hellboy. And so when he was working at DC, he did this series, Batman Gotham by Gaslight, which is an Elseworld story about essentially Victorian England, where a Victorian English Batman faces off against Jack the Ripper.
Oh boy! And
it looks great. I love Mike Mignola's art.
Batman in it.
Yeah, and it's exactly There's a lot of what's all this then?
What's all this then?
But this is I think this one makes a good gift because I don't know that many people that would maybe have it because it's not part of the regular Batman series. This was just an Elseworld story, and it's from like 30 years ago. It was done in the 90s. And this is a new printing of it from this year, 2023. It also has a few sequel issues written by the same writer, starring the Victorian era Batman, drawn by different artists, all great artists, not Mike Mignola, but I think Mike Mignola is definitely the big sell for me. So, if you're just looking for like a random Batman gift, like if you know your kid or your friend or your husband or your wife loves Batman, I would bet they probably haven't read this one, and it's really, really good. Highly, highly recommend it. Are you going to read it, Dan?
Gaslight Batman? No.
Batman the Gaslighter.
I'm not really into superheroes that much. Batman's cool.
Yeah, Batman.
It's a dude with a bunch of money just beating up on criminals.
Yeah. That's why I like the Elseworlds because they kind of give you
switches it up a little.
Yeah, a little like different versions. Like I like the idea of Batman in like 1880, just like how he operate. You know? And so it's a good book. So
Batarang in it.
Exactly. All right, let's talk about a few other books that came out this week.
Howard the Duck.
Howard the Duck.
Nice.
This is a anniversary one shot. I like Howard the Duck. I haven't read everything that he's been in, but I enjoy the original series. He was created by a writer named Steve Gerber, and it was really, really funny, and also a weird comic at the time when everything was like big dramatic soap opera superheroes and like cosmic stuff.
There's a duck.
He was just doing this comedy talking animals comic essentially.
You like a good talking animal?
I do like a good talking animal, and it was it was not just parody but a lot of satire in it, and it was just really, really funny. And so this is essentially a giant what if issue where they have this different, not the Watcher himself. This is I think he says he's his Watcher's brother or something, and he's named the Peeper. And he's played off like he's a little bit of a weirdo, spies on people for his own pleasure. And so he gives you a few what if stories about Howard the Duck. This is by a variety of different creators.
That's fun.
This one of them is just about a specific storyline where Howard the Duck ran for president. There's another one that I enjoyed. What if Howard the Duck became an X-Man? which was pretty good. Like just some good X-Men jokes in there. You know, I like the X-Men.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's a pretty light read. I don't know if anybody that's like not interested in Howard the Duck will really like get anything out of it. And Howard the Duck's always been an odd character that he's never been super popular. He's just always kind of been in the background.
He's kind of a niche character.
But it is funny. You know, and if you like a good funny book, this is a book for you.
There you go.
Another one coming up, Predator vs. Wolverine.
That's still going.
Yes, it is. I couldn't remember. I think we didn't talk about issue 2.
I don't remember us talking about issue 2.
But I only wanted to highlight this to say that this issue, I think I explained the premise before. You know, it's Wolverine versus Predator.
That's it.
And it works in a neat way where Wolverine has this rich, long history where he's, you know, because he's got his healing factor, so he's like over 100 years old. And so I like this idea of Predator just hunting Wolverine and all these different stages of his life. And it's like every time Wolverine meets the Predator and like either kills him or beats him, and the Predator keeps coming back. And it's like decades later or whatever. This one was particularly interesting to me because this takes place during my favorite Wolverine story, that is the Weapon X, like the first kind of origin for Wolverine, where it tells the story of how he got his adamantium bones and his claws. And it's written by one of my favorite comic book artists of all time, Barry Windsor Smith. This issue, I have to say, this is issue 3, and it's fine, but the premise is starting to wear thin. Where I'm just like, okay, I think when issue 1, there's a classic Barry Windsor Smith moment. When issue 1 came out, I think I made a comment where I was like, can you really keep this going for like a whole series? Isn't this just basically like a one-shot idea?
And the answer might be no.
Well, we'll see. I think it's only 4 issues long. So this is issue 3. So if it wraps up to a nice conclusion with the next issue, that'll be all right. But yeah. Sorry. Got a little twinge in my throat. I'm trying not to cough all over you.
Are you twinging?
I'm twinging.
Stop twinging, bro.
I don't want to cough in the microphone either. All right. So, coming up next, we got a Berserker one-shot.
Berserker. Peak content.
Right, yeah, let me just cough all
Exactly.
Well, thank you, Steve. This is very kind of you. After all the mean things Dan said about you behind your back.
Yep. It's been pretty rough.
Berserker, I enjoy this comic book series. I'm glad to see them doing new...
You said what?
I'm glad to see them doing
Non-stop.
New stories. We've talked about this before. This is a series by Keanu Reeves.
Keanu.
It was a 12-issue series. And then once it finished, they've been just doing these one-shots. They're just kind of random stories that take place in the character's past. Because very similar to Wolverine, he has... I don't want to like say it exactly like Wolverine because he's actually
don't ruin it.
He's actually like goes back to ancient times, like prehistory. Whereas Wolverine's just like a century.
Yeah. As you do.
You know, it happens. One notable thing about this issue, it is not written by Matt Kindt, St. Louis's own Matt Kindt. So when I saw that Matt Kindt's name wasn't on this, I immediately went,
yeah, don't want it anymore.
But then I saw that it is written by Mattson Tomlin, who's a pretty good writer. He actually is one of the writers of the Robert Pattinson The Batman movie.
Okay.
And he wrote a Batman miniseries called The Imposter, which is pretty good. So, yeah, he's a good writer. So I was like, okay, he's a good pick to tell like a Keanu Reeves Berserker story. And it's as violent. Maybe that's as much as I'm going to show.
Wow.
It's as violent as you might expect.
There you go.
You
just get decapitated.
Yeah. The art is by Rebecca Isaacs, who I've not read a lot of her work. The only thing I'm familiar with is she drew the Money Shot series.
Nice.
Not the current one that we're
original.
Reading. That's a different. Yeah, she drew the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a really good artist. It's a nice little Berserker story. I'll be happy if they just rather than do like another series, if they just periodically do these one-shot books that just tell like a random
different
story
time period stuff.
Different time periods.
Yeah,
that's a lot of fun.
That seems
especially if you can get like a revolving crew of writers and artists that just kind of
keep it fresh
and like do your version of Berserker. You know, like I think that's a good idea.
Seems like a common comic book thing. Take your character and put him in ancient times. Take your character, put him in feudal Japan. Take your character and do it's like
it's a thing that works.
Does it?
So that's pretty much it for issues. I have one other book I want to talk about. I think it was it 2 weeks ago we talked about the book My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness by Nagata Kabi, who is a manga artist. The reason they did that reprinting of her first book is because this new book just came out called My Pancreas Broke, But My Life Got Better.
Wow.
And I read this because I like her work and I like autobio stuff. This book is actually a sequel more to her, I think it was her fourth book maybe, My Alcoholic Escape from Reality.
Oof.
And this is a tough. This is a kind of a tough read. I think it was maybe in the last episode, or I've made this comment multiple times, which a lot of times autobio comics kind of come across as catharsis, like
therapy,
for cartoonists.
Yeah.
And that is definitely
allowing them to get it all out.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. Basically, it just deals. She just, spills her heart on the page about struggling.
It says it all right there.
Right. Struggling with alcoholism. But it is interesting to see her try to make sense of it, because I think that's a very a personal journey, an inward introspective struggle, which a lot of people kind of go through. And so it can be cathartic in its own way to read about somebody else going through that, to know that you're not alone in it.
Right. Yeah.
But it is tough.
It's always a good thing.
One of the themes that she talks about repeatedly is part of the biggest reason she has struggled with alcoholism was, as the title says, it was to escape her problems. And so one of the things that was totally new to you, and I think a lot of people are unprepared for, was she was having to deal with suddenly being successful. Which if you're and she previously had been struggling with depression and other anxiety stuff, like she's been taking medication, and then all of a sudden she's really successful. Like the book we talked about last time, My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness, that won a Harvey Award in America. Like, it was incredibly successful. Like all of a sudden, overnight, she was a professional mangaka, or manga creator. And I think she had a tough time dealing with that. Like, success can be difficult to deal with.
Overwhelming.
Yeah, overwhelming, exactly. And so, one of the things that she talks about is she never had a drop of alcohol in her life until she was 28.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't until after she became successful where she I think she describes it in the book, where when she was younger, she felt like she never deserved to have fun, never deserved to enjoy herself. And now that she had proved that she's worth something, now she was going to let loose, and it just took over her life. And another thing that she keeps going back to is she didn't want to do autobio comics. She didn't want to do more personal comics because it's very scary to just put yourself out there like that.
Yeah.
And she keeps making reference to the fact that her first book, the one we talked about, it kept making her parents cry every time they would read it, because it's about her life, and they're in it, they're characters in her life, and so they were all. It can be a tough thing to deal with. And so both of these books, it's kind of sad. Like, the first one ends with her actually trying to get clean. She gets pancreatitis, and she basically relapses. And the first book, she gets dismissed. It is a little dark because she relapses, and it doesn't end with her saying I'm going to turn my life around. It just ends with her saying, well, having kind of a realization.
Here we are.
Yeah, it ends with her saying kind of an introspective look into why she is the way she is. Yeah. And she's like, now that I've thought about it and worked myself through it by writing and drawing this book, I feel like I'm prepared to do something about it. But it doesn't actually end with her saying, I'm going to quit.
Right.
And that's why you have the second book.
You got the book that tells you what happens.
Yes. And the other interesting thing, too, is because the second book, it mostly takes place in 2020, which was, a unique time period.
That was an okay year, yeah.
I mean, nothing much changed for me, but that's a different story. But yeah, so the first book, she talks about her experience going through the hospital, and this book, she's even more freaked out because now everything is COVID awareness, and she's in a hospital for pancreatitis. Pancreatitis.
Yeah.
And because she's relapsed really bad, and then she develops an eating disorder. It just gets darker and darker and darker.
Jesus.
She gets administered to the hospital because she can't like her pancreas completely broke, like shut down on her, and she doesn't want to be in the hospital, so she like sneaks out, like out a window, like detaches the IV and like goes home. Like she just can't face her problems without alcohol. It's really it's heavy stuff.
Yeah.
But I admire her just putting it out there like that. She talks about even just like the fear of making this book. She didn't even want to make these books. She wanted to do nonfiction, or she wanted to do fiction because she didn't want to have to be the autobio person that just puts herself on
keeps
her page,
telling her own story,
keeps telling her own stories, and then it kind of turns into like this cycle of like, well, you just live this self-destructive life so you can make a comic about it, and then so she feels guilty about that. And I have to say, I do like it gets so dark. There are a few places where it does feel a little voyeuristic, where I'm reading about this and I'm just like,
you feel bad.
I feel bad.
Yeah,
I'm just
I think that's the point, isn't it?
It is the point.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But it's just like where I'm just like, oh, I want you to just like take care of this. Don't keep telling me about it. Just fix it.
Stop messing yourself up.
Oh my goodness. Talking about COVID got me all coughing. So, but I will say.
What will he say?
I will say this second book does end with her saying she's gotten completely sober and she's gonna work like this one, unlike the previous book where it says she doesn't outright say she's gotten sober. In fact, she just says that she still drinks, but she's just gonna figure out how to solve it.
And then
it just gets worse.
Yeah.
In the second book. In the second book, she gets completely sober and she says she's working to keep it that way.
So good read if you want to be sad and
well, there is an uplifting there's an uplifting nature of like seeing somebody kind of like hit rock bottom and pull themselves out of it. And I mean it's an emotional read for sure. If I guess depending on how connected you get with that kind of stuff, I'm sure a lot of people will just read this and be like, that's probably say mean things, but I don't want to say them.
Interesting.
But yeah, it's a good book. I'm glad I read it. I recommend these books to people that like. I mean, it's definitely a if you like this sort of thing book. I don't know, like a lot of people probably just like it might be too heavy to read. Like to really like. Yeah. Like I said, sometimes it feels voyeuristic, but it is. Yeah, it's a good book. It's good. I don't have much else. All right.
It's good.
It's good. Moving on. I always ask coworker. All my books are falling down.
Oh gosh.
Why did I do this?
Oh gosh.
I always ask a coworker to pick a book for me to talk about.
Yeah.
And I asked our good friend Greasy CC, or Celeste, as you might know her, and she picked this book, Death and Sparkles and the Sacred Golden Cupcake.
Okay.
Now you might say this is volume 2, so this is like the second book in a series. And Dan, you're probably looking at this and you're saying this is not the type of book I would normally read.
I don't think that's the type of book you normally read.
You are correct, but I read the whole thing instead of reading any of the books in my poll that I want to read. I read this.
I was about to ask because that's a lot of books.
It is, but it's a kid's book.
There's not a lot
so there's not a lot to it. I actually liked the art in this a lot. It's really charming. Fun. It's good art. The story, the story does a good job of alternating between each chapter, which is it's a style that I like. I've actually utilized it myself in one of my own books, where one chapter tells the story of what's going on with the main character or the protagonist, and then the other chapter tells the story of what's happening with the antagonist, and then they combine at the end for the like the climax. I can't believe I'm saying this about this book because it is a pretty simplistic kids book. The main characters is the main character is Death and Sparkles. Who Death is the Grim Reaper.
Yes.
And Sparkles is this little unicorn who's I guess an orphan. And what I was about to say is I can't believe I'm saying this, but I sort of feel like I should read the first book to understand what's going on. To catch up. So it's like I looked at this and I'm like, okay, it's a kid's book. It's like I assumed it would be more designed to just like kids just
jump in. Yeah.
But it does feel like maybe there's something going on. I don't really get a sense of like who the characters are. Like, why are they friends?
Right.
You know, they're just there together.
It hasn't been established. I mean, it's been established in the
first
one.
In the first book.
Yeah, now you're like way behind.
Yeah, I know. So, but it's charming. There's a lot of silly jokes in it, you know, as you would expect. Some puns, some good visual humor. There is some weird. There's some like reference stuff, which I don't want to say it feels dated because it's just like there's some reference jokes that it's like, okay, that's like for an adult, like something that not an adult joke, but something that an adult would recognize, but a kid's not going to know what that means. And which is
that's
something
fun.
Well, it is fun. It's something that I've always admired in a lot of all ages or like kids fiction, where it's sort of like when you have like a movie that's for kids, you throw a couple of lines in there for the adults so they're not too bored, you know.
So they go, oh,
yeah, I recognize that.
Yeah,
you know, and it's like kids don't care, like they don't have to know what it means. But yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna go back to read the first book. But you know, Celeste wanted me to read it to tell her if she's looking for stuff for her kids. I do think that this is like a book that kids will enjoy. It's somewhere in the middle for me. I'm trying to evaluate it seriously.
Trying to think about what
like.
There's been a lot of thought into this.
It's not like my favorite kids
but
book. But
it wasn't terrible.
But it wasn't terrible.
Yeah,
I think it's good. It's maybe not something I would recommend to boys. Like, it feels more like a girl's book. It's doing that thing where it's like that cute, scary kind of thing. Like, one of the characters is supposed to be the Grim Reaper. But it's like a lot of the humor is like, oh, isn't it cute? It's the Grim Reaper, but he's having a dance party, you know. And so there is a little bit of like a macabre sense to it, like a tiny bit. Which that's what I mean when I say it feels like it's more for girls, because I do think that girls they mature faster than boys, so I think that's something that they will pick up on and understand more so than young boys, that they just want to see things blow up and explode.
True.
You know. So, I mean, I still do. Like, even why do you think I'm reading superhero comics?
Because you don't know any better.
But yeah, it ends with a dance off. You know, dancing.
Of course.
Of course. There's like a surprisingly mature kind of a dark origin for the protagonists, the Moles, where they get adopted as pets by these unicorns, but then they're not allowed to take part in any of their unicorn games.
Oh boy.
Sounds very familiar. So they. It doesn't say what happens. It implies that maybe they killed all the unicorns.
Oh, jeez.
Like, there's like some stuff where it kind of goes like kind of dark. Where I'm like, I feel like you need to read that out.
You need to read the first one, and I'll tell you all the answers. Right,
and I mean, the creator Rob Justice, you know, he probably wanted to leave it kind of ambiguous, like open. But yeah, it was. I have to admit, it was kind of an interesting read. I was gonna just like
unexpected. I
was gonna read a few pages and be like, okay, it's like for
and
kids,
then you got sucked in,
and then I read the whole thing. So.
Great.
Yeah, so that happened.
So maybe read it, maybe don't.
Yeah,
start with number one. There's might be more to it.
I would recommend you start with number one. Ironically, you know, you know, even kids, I think, start with number one. But it's maybe it's a good sequel. I didn't read the first one. So.
Well,
all right.
Well, there you go.
Okay, that's all I got.
That's great.
Like I said, it was a light week.
Yeah, it was a light week. Oh, we got through a lot of books today, though.
I
think we did all right.
Yeah, I think we had some fun too. I think I only coughed in the microphone 3 times.
Yeah, 3 or 4 times.
You know.
It's fine. Now I got to burn these things. So if you don't buy comic books here at Fantasy Books and Games, which you should, if you don't, you're not nearby, go somewhere and get some comic books. There's something out there for everybody. You're going to find something you like. And we will see you next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be a heavier week then.
I'm sure it will be. That's what always happens.
Maybe more Death and Sparkles.
Maybe. Afterward, he said it took him 3 years to write and draw this, so I don't know if I'd expect one next week.
Ooh, okay, that seems like a long time. All right, we'll see you guys next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.